But now we are June 29th. We will having 2 days on APIs at APIs Dubai in Middle East about open banking and digital transformation. And for that, we are glad to present you as our co-organizer, Prashant, who will tell you more about the program of the next 2 days. Hello, Prashant. How are you doing?
I'm good, Mehdi. Thank you. It's really a pleasure to be on stage with you, not talking to the wonderful API community in Dubai and Middle East region. Hello, everybody. Glad that you could join us at this wonderful event. For the next 2 days, today and tomorrow, we have put together a 40 plus sessions, 50 plus speakers, three panel discussions, couple of roundtables and workshops for you. It covers a broad range of topic. Let me give you a teaser about that. So post this address by us, you will have two wonderful keynotes addressing two key different aspects of the financial services ecosystem where API plays a key role. That is one on the future of finance, that is the open finance, and then the role of APIs in the insurance sector. And then post the keynotes, we will be have three different tracks open. One is the stage one, where we'll focus predominantly from a functional or an enterprise point of view. There are 4 or more countries in this region who are at some or the other part of their journey towards open banking and open finance. So we have put together three sets of sessions, three segments of sessions there. First, we will focus on giving you an inside-out view of what is happening in the market. What are the expectations of the different set of stakeholders? What are the opportunities that they are seeing and the challenges that they foresee? And then moving on, we will bring together a couple of experts who have been there, done that in the open banking journey, but in different parts of the world. They will be sharing with us the success stories, the best practices, the pitfalls to avoid, so as to help the open banking stakeholders across this region to have a seamless journey there. And then moving on, we will have one couple of wonderful sessions on the topic of open finance, different aspects of it from different point of views. Then on the stage two, we will focus more from a technology or a technology point of view. First, we will have sessions on the topic of how to prepare your organization for that open banking journey. What are those best practices in terms of architecture? What are the things that you need to take care of? Then we will have sessions on the developer experience and the customer experience in this new paradigm, because open banking or open finance is bringing in connecting the customers or the developers more and more seamlessly, and you need to focus on this topic in a much more focused manner. Then moving on, we will have the sessions on API security and API monetization to tell you about what are the things that you need to focus from a security point of view. Why is the need? Why such a need for API security has arisen in this time, and how to monetize the APIs that I have built. And parallelly, we will have some couple of wonderful workshops and roundtables, all being organized by our partners, Google Cloud, DataStax, Gravity.io, and Postman. So that brings that's all for the day one. Moving on to day two, we will have keynotes focusing on the digital transformation in the governance sector. Specifically, this region is very advanced in terms of the adoption of digital and the transformation of the manual process into a digital manner, especially in the governance sector, government and the governance areas. And then moving on, we will have sessions on the digital insurance. Then we will segue into two different tracks. One is on the from a business side, or the functional side, we will focus on the digital transformation across different industries. And in the second segment of the day two, we will deep dive into aviation, specifically from a point of view of APIs, and then they roll the NDC, as they call it. And then we will have sessions on API ecosystem, what all need to be taken care of in that aspect. And then on the technical track, we will have sessions on the API first point of view, which will help the organizations to have set up a clear strategy, have a smooth journey in their API first world. And then there are definitely in this time and age, the data, which is of paramount importance. And there are specific strategies along with an API strategy, which focuses on the data point of view, so as to ensure your digital transformation is seamless. And we will have some wonderful sessions from the different sectors, different sets of industries on that. And then we will have the sessions from an API lifecycle point of view. And then to close, we will have the keynote focusing on the data privacy in the age of digital transformation, the best practices and the pitfalls to avoid. So these are this is a summary of the sessions that you can expect in the between today and tomorrow at these stages.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prashant. And so just to be sure we start on time, we just want to also thank our sponsors that make this event possible and free online for the online version. The first one is Google Cloud. They offer great API management solutions and a full environment for putting everything to the cloud. So they have an expo booth at the event, so you can browse the platform and visit them and ask them questions about what they're delivering. We also want to thank our silver and bronze sponsors, DataStax, Gravity.io, Apida, and Postman. Again, they also booth at the event, and you can ask them about the product. But now it's time to start, and we will start with Sanjeev Kumar, founder at Whitesight, about future of finance is open. So finance is a topic that really interests the Middle East region. And yes, Sanjeev, you prepared something for us, right?
Absolutely, Mehdi. Yeah.
Perfect. The slides.
All right. Thanks a lot, Mehdi, for the session. And just to get started on the future of finance and why it is going to be open in so many ways. If you look at the industry, the financial services industry has existed for centuries, but why are we just starting to talk about openness, fairness, transparency, etc. in current times? Because suddenly the customer is seeking a lot more control, not just on how the banks and financial institutions use their money that they're keeping in the banks, but also how they use their data. So this sudden awareness and expectations from the customers regarding how financial institutions use their data has come into the mainstream, and the digital transformation of the industry that Prashant alluded to in his talk, which is one of the primary themes of the event, has created a lot of fintechs, a lot of non-banks, a lot of modern startups, as well as big tech companies to join the financial industry and create new kinds of financial products and services that can benefit the customers. So if you look at the transition that the banking industry is going through, openness, not just in terms of sharing the data, but also in terms of enabling new types of product creation and distribution, is going to be critical for how the industry progresses. So with that background, I just wanted to move on to the traction that open finance has been witnessing over the years. And if you look at the backdrop, a lot of countries started from a nudge from regulators towards their open banking and open finance journey. So a lot of things happened in the year 2016 when regulators in the UK came around and saw that the banking industry was very concentrated. There was no level playing field for the competitors to come in and disrupt and innovate in the industry. They started thinking about bringing ways to enable the level playing field in the industry. Then a couple of banks joined it in the initiatives as they were facilitated by the regulators to enable openness in the industry. A couple of years later, fintechs like Revolut and Klarna, they started to join the open banking phenomenon in a big way, not just as data consumer, but also enabling the data infrastructure, which will aggregate APIs which are published by banks, and then start facilitating that data transfer between banks and third-party providers. I think in the last 2 years, we have seen significant interest from bigger banks and investors like JP Morgan Chase and A16Z, who have started to invest in a big way in the data aggregation platforms. And then last year, we saw some of the big acquisitions by Visa and MasterCard in this space. Current year, we have already seen some of the big wigs joining the industry, with Apple acquiring Credit Kudos in the UK a couple of months back to start their buy now pay later journey, which they have just launched last month. And Stripe was the latest to come into the open banking space, where they have started creating and enabling the infrastructure for data sharing between banks and fintechs in the US. So the evolution of open finance over the years, if you see this chart, it's massive, not just in terms of the banking industry participating in it, but also outsiders coming in and enabling the journey towards the open finance journey. We looked at what was happening in this year typically, and if you look at open banking and open finance is no more developed market play. Almost every country and every region is having some ways to participate in the phenomenon. Obviously, given the regulatory incentives and mandates that UK and Europe have started to do a couple of years back, they are a few years ahead in terms of their open banking journey. But if you look at emerging markets like Southeast Asia, Latin America, Middle East, all of them have started their open banking journey in a big way this year. And what I mean by that, a lot of companies in the segment has raised massive rounds of funding. A lot of companies have partnered with banks and fintechs and e-commerce platforms to enable open banking based products. And a lot of companies have also procured specific licenses to operate as a trusted player in different parts of the world. So a lot of traction has already happened in the year that has gone by, and we have only looked at this from January to May. And if you look at, we are at the fag end of June, a lot of things has happened in the segment already in the month of June. And some of the differences in what kind of activities we are seeing in the open finance sector, if you look at a lot of firms are involved in acquisitions, mergers, a lot of people are launching new kinds of products in partnerships with banks, in partnerships with networks, in partnerships with technology players. Regulators are also putting a lot of force and momentum behind open banking and open finance, where either they're busy evaluating the license applications and issuing licenses to open banking players, allowing some of them to participate in regulatory sandboxes, or setting up the standardization and API guidelines for banks to adhere to. So different kinds of activities. Of course, the funding space is important to point out, because if you look at 2022, there's a lot of news of slowdown of funding in the industry. But at the same time, if you look at the funding that has gone in, a lot of funding has gone to the technology infrastructure players in general. And if you look at the segment of technology players who are involved in open finance, a significant portion of that funding has gone to these kind of players. And then open banking is all about collaboration between different sets of players in the industry. So we are seeing a lot of partnerships, not just between banks and fintechs, but also between fintechs and fintechs, where they are partnering to enable embedded open banking. They are partnering to enable crypto kind of products where funding can be directly sourced from the bank account on a crypto exchange. And those kind of technology partnerships are also very prevalent in the industry. If you look at the progression journey of open finance in different countries and regions, we see slightly different ways in which they have approached the progression. But at the same time, if you look at, almost everyone is kind of evolving from one set of data sharing to a wider set of data sharing. So some of the countries have started with payments data, some of the countries have started with products and financial services, branch data, ATM data, which are easy to share. And then they have progressed towards consumer data that the banks are holding in their treasure. And then they are maturing towards something that we call open finance, where the data sharing is not just limited to bank accounts and debit cards, but also extends to other kind of financial products like investments, insurance, foreign exchange, a loan account, etc. So we are seeing a lot of variation in the way different countries are approaching. the progression, but there seems to be a convergence in the end goal that everyone is looking to proceed towards. And there's a lot of discussion that keeps happening, especially from the bank side, that will open banking eventually hurt banks in the process, as they have to open up the data on which third parties are going to create and distribute products. And there's a very interesting quote that was given by the executive from Google a couple of years back, which is very important to keep in mind, that open banking is not a zero-sum game, right? It's going to expand the industry. We are talking about millions of people who are currently underserved and unserved by the traditional financial institutions. And one of the core agenda of open banking is to create products that can reach out to those underserved segments. So because it's not a zero-sum game, everyone who is going to participate in the ecosystem stands to benefit in a big way. And that's how banks have started to look at their open banking initiative, not just from the compliance angle, but also from a monetization and market expansion agenda. If you look at the financial services industry's evolution that is happening, a lot of it is going to run on open rails moving forward. So if you look at currently, a lot of financial products run on traditional rails. So if you have bank account, you need a banking license, you need to have a branch, you need to do physical KYC. Similarly, if you have other kinds of products, you need to have a traditional set of licenses or infrastructure capabilities to offer that kind of financial products. In the future, there's a lot of open rails that are coming up, which will enable new kind of players to offer financial products. So if you look at just the credit and finance, which is one of the biggest pillars on which the financial industry works, a lot of alternate data are going to come into the mix, which will allow you to create new kind of personalized products that can help banks as well as fintech serve underserved segments that are currently not served by the traditional financial institution. But at the same time, it will also reduce the cost to serve these segments of customers. Because that's very important when you're expanding the market. You want to ensure that you can cost effectively and profitably serve a segment so that your business is sustainable, and at the same time, customers enjoy the new kinds of product innovation that you bring to the market. So these are the kind of open rails that we have started to see come up in the industry. And if you look at the open banking related rails, so a lot of these rails which are highlighted on the slide have a direct correlation with open banking and open finance play, where either the data that is going to come in will be enabled by the data infrastructure platform, or a certain portion of the process flow, for example, digital KYC, will get benefited from the kind of data sharing that will happen from the open banking API. So that's how we see the future of finance evolve as open banking and open finance progresses. Also, open finance is not something which we see it having an isolated impact on the industry. There are several themes that are coming up in the financial industry. For example, embedded finance, digital finance. A lot of focus is there on sustainable finance, and Mehdi mentioned about the Apidays initiative around sustainable projects. So a lot of green finance project is also going to get benefited from open banking data. And the kind of super app initiatives that Revolut and Do are going after, that kind of massive product aggregation will definitely need a lot of data sharing between different participants to bring it to life. So that's how we see open finance having a direct impact on different trends that are shaping the future of finance. And that's why it has a larger impact in how the future of the industry evolves. Credit, as I mentioned, is one of the important segment in the industry, not just from the banks and financial institution side, but also from the consumer and SMEs angle. where a lot of credit decisioning is currently obstructed by the data that traditional institutions use for making those credit decisioning. If you look at this chart, where open banking comes into play, it allows real-time access to data to anyone who wants to make credit decisions, and as opposed to the data that comes from credit bureaus, or as opposed to the data that comes from financial statements, where there's a significant lag in the way that data is collected from the respective entities. That's why the data that will come from open banking will unlock significant value for the financial institutions by offering new ways to create and distribute credit products. This is one chart that we probably look at in terms of evolution of open banking, how it is taking shape. So obviously we have closed banking for last so many centuries, where banks are mostly focused on competition with other banks. Now we are talking about open banking, where data sharing is going to happen through standard APIs for payments data, for accounts data, etc. The next leg of evolution is open finance, which kind of allows banks to operate, banks and financial institutions from different segments to share data and create new kinds of products and processes. And then eventually we are talking about open economy, which allows the data sharing to extend across different industries like e-commerce, healthcare, utility, energy, telecom, etc. So this is the way we are witnessing the evolution of open banking in terms of data scope and also the collaboration scope. So the kind of collaboration that is required to bring this to life is going to be immense, and APIs are the bedrock of that collaboration, because you can't have exclusive one-on-one partnership relationship to enable this kind of open future. And that's why the APIs are going to be the bedrock of this evolution that we are going to see in the industry. A couple of examples of what we are already seeing in the market as a aftermath of open banking. So as I mentioned in the previous slide, there's a lot of discussion on fintech marketplaces that has already started to happen. And one case study is from Starling Bank. So they have created a marketplace where they partner with a bunch of players to serve their retail customers as well as their small, medium business customers. There's a lot of progress that has happened on the credit decisioning and credit disbursement kind of module. And this is one of the initiatives in India, which is called Open Credit Enablement Network. And if you look at the value chain in which the credit is currently originated, underwritten, and disbursed to SMEs, and after the disbursement, there's a lot of activities that happens on the monitoring and collection side. Almost all these individual aspects of the value chain can get benefited by open finance in several ways, by accessing data, but also by enabling account-to-account payments and collection of payments in smaller amounts if there is a problem at the side of the customer. We are seeing a lot of rebundling and embedded finance kind of proposition where lifestyle players like Grab, Gcash, Alipay, they are embedding financial services in their core proposition. At the same time, we are seeing a lot of financial players like Revolut, Square, Paytm. They are bringing a lot of lifestyle services around their core financial services. So that's the kind of evolution we have started to see in the industry. But if you look at the behind the scenes, why this kind of rebundling is happening, then you will see that there's a lot of openness that has come in the infrastructure layer, but also on the innovation and distribution layer that has enabled this kind of business model to flourish. So everyone is talking about embedded finance, where non-banks are bringing financial proposition embedded in their customer journeys. And that is being enabled by banking as a service platforms, where banks and technology players are enabling renting out their charter as well as their technology capabilities to non-banks to allow them to embed financial services in their platform. But if you look at the behind the scenes, what's happening, there's a open infrastructure that has emerged, which basically allows both banks as well as fintechs and non-banks to use the technology that they need to create and distribute a product. So nobody's talking to one or two core banking players to launch financial products. Now you have availability and accessibility to infrastructure players where all of this is available in the form of as a service. So you don't have to pay them millions of dollars and install their product on your servers before you can get started. So this openness of infrastructure is actually driving the customer facing trend that we are witnessing in the form of open finance, embedded finance, and banking as a service. And if you look at the middle layer, which kind of connects these two, is the innovation infrastructure, either in the form of accelerators and incubators, which are operated by banks, or core banking players creating their own infrastructure libraries in the form of core banking adjacent technology providers, or there are individual digital sandboxes which have come up, which are enabling banks, fintechs, and non-banks to get access to the fintech infrastructure provider in one go. So we are seeing different kind of evolution happening on all these three levels, on the product manufacturing side, on the product distribution side, but also on the technology infrastructure side, which are coming together and shaping the future of finance. And if you look at a lot of this evolution is happening because individual systems, individual companies can talk to each other through APIs, which are not specific APIs. They are standardized APIs, which enable integration between number of players and allow people to innovate in real time. So that's how we see the industry moving forward. And that's where I wanted to end my session. Over to you, Miguel, for maybe for next part of the session.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sanjeev. So, a first question I may have. Thank you for the presentation. In the finance sector, we say that because of banking as a service APIs, at the end it will just be brands. You know, like Uber can be a financial brand, Grab can be a financial brand. As long as you own a community that really trusts your brand, you can be the next fintech. Do you agree with that statement?
Oh, absolutely. So if you look at it from a customer's angle, if I already do a lot of interaction with the brands for my lifestyle needs, whether I'm making an e-commerce purchase or I'm riding a car or I'm making a transaction for buying a movie or something else, and if I like the experience that the brand provides me in terms of digital interaction, rewards, cashbacks, etc. Financial products at the end of the day are just a means to an end, right? You don't wake up and say, I want to take a loan today, or I want to open a bank account today. At the end of the day, you want to do something with that money that you are saving or investing, or you want to do something with that money that you are borrowing from a bank or a fintech. So I think that kind of finance getting embedded in the customer journey of brands who have an end relation with the customer is going to become a norm as we proceed forward.
To your mind, what is the different mindset between talking about open banking or embedded banking, or open finance, embedded finance? What's the shift like, and what do we need to understand in the difference between the two?
Well, absolutely. Great question. I think there's a lot of confusion because there are overlaps in these two terms, but there are also significant differences. So when we say embedded finance, we are talking about the trend that you just alluded to, where a brand which is not a bank is embedding financial services for seamless access to their end customers. So that's why we are calling it finance getting embedded into something which is not finance. Open finance is primarily around sharing of data across different entities, right? And what I mean by that, currently a lot of financial data, which includes transaction data, KYC data, product data, is lying with the current financial institutions. So when you allow customers to share that data with anyone who can offer them a new kind of financial products, that is what we term as open finance, because there's an openness in which the customers can share their data. The second aspect of open finance is also open payments, or most people call it payment initiation, where you allow customers the ability to move money from their account to any other account, whether it is their own account or some merchant account or some business account. And if they can do that movement of money without using an intermediary like a debit card or a credit card, then that also falls in the purview of open finance. So open finance is mainly about movement of money and movement of data by taking consent from the customer.
We have a question that, do you consider open finance contain open healthcare?
So we call it open economy, and some people call it open data. Some people call it open data economy, where other industries are also coming into the mix. So if you look at how Australia is going about their open finance journey, they're not calling it open banking or open finance. They are calling it consumer data rights. So they're calling it data. Doesn't matter if that data is residing with the banks or a health company or a telecom company or an energy company. So they are saying that consumers should have the control over their data, irrespective of which entity or which industry is holding that data. So I can move my data from my energy company and switch to another energy company if they allow me better rates and better features. So open health is more a part of open data rather than open finance.
We have a question from different banking players who say, how can I avoid to be disintermediated and to disappear if I open into embedded banking? If I'm in a Grab or Uber or Amazon or Alibaba user experience, like, okay, I provide them banking as a service solution, but okay, but I'm disappearing. People don't see my brand, don't see anything anymore. So how I can survive in the embedded finance?
A great question, and that's what I alluded to when I mentioned about open banking not being a zero-sum game. So banks need to think of it as a wider opportunity, right? So even, you look at the banking industry, banks have existed for centuries. Despite that, we have, 40, 50% of customers being unserved in parts of the world like Southeast Asia, Middle East, India, Latin America. So if you look at the opportunity that can come into the financial services industry through open banking is going to be huge. Obviously, there will be some cannibalization as you partner with bigger players, but that will also allow banks to reinvent their customer experience, right? Because it's not just data exchange. It's also an exchange of values, exchange of cultures when you partner with a brand who is a digital native brand, and banks would learn a lot of things that will help them re-architect their customer experience that they offer to banks through their own channels today. And that will help them run two parts of their business. One which will be driven through partners, but another which will be an own channel through which they can reach out to customers and improve their experience.
Maybe last question there. Someone is asking, do you think banks should keep traditional channels like maybe web and mobile, their own web and their own mobile applications? Or do you think they should directly accept that they will lose the customer experience because everybody wants banking in their own environment? They don't want banking in a banking app, right? And and go out of my whatever lifestyle application to go in a banking app. Do you advise banks to still fight for the customer experience and the brand, or no, they should be embedded everywhere, and that's the end goal of banking? You remember the Bill Gates quote: we need banking, but we don't need banks, right?
So I have a rather different way of looking at it. So if you look at, there is no one size fit all from the customer's angle, right? So I am very different. You are very different. My dad is very different. The next generation is going to be very different. So, and we are billions of people, right? So I don't see that it will be like a winner-take-all market. And financial services industry is not like other industries like e-commerce or entertainment, where the regulations are rather easy to deal with. So I see a lot of opportunity for banks to actually embed lifestyle services into their platform, right? So who is stopping banks to bring e-commerce and entertainment into the mix? And some of the forward-looking banks are doing that already in Europe, in Singapore. So I think eventually you should look at it as the opportunity is huge from a customer's angle, and you are going to fight with the brands who have a leg up in their operating model, but you also have a lot of experience of dealing with money. And believe me, when something goes wrong and customers can't reach out to the brand's call center to get quick resolution, they miss banks because they don't have any recourse to raise it to a regulator and escalate the issue that they are facing. So I don't think banks will disappear. Obviously, there will be a lot of rejig in the way the industry functions today. But I see definite space for banks, but obviously in a different shape and form.
So it seems every brand tried to have financial services embedded, and maybe banks wants to have lifestyle services embedded. So it's all about customers, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, perfect, Sanjeev. Thank you very much for opening Apidays Dubai in Middle East. It was great to have you. Thank you for being there with us.